always feeling like a little bit behind or tired or lacking energy or on the treadmill.
I've done something for myself today, and it doesn't have to wait for the big thing, the big walk, or just the little things. Do you know what? I'm actually tired. Like, I'd actually be quite happy to go back and crawl into bed.
What the heck can I do in the moment just to catch a breath?
How would you feel if I said, let's run on a treadmill as fast as we can for as long as we can? Well, I know what you're probably thinking, Larissa, there's no way I can do that. But why do we do it in our salons? Like, think about it. We're running around looking after our team, we're recruiting, serving clients, attracting new clients, being the CEO, and then we're also being a mother, a partner, and everything else that we can do and that we need to do. And it really feels like we're just running nonstop on the treadmill. And I feel just out of breath thinking about it. And I know that's exactly how you feel, because I remember being a salon owner, feeling tired, lacking energy, and thinking, when the heck am I going to take a break and when can I catch my breath? Which is why I'm excited to have Natalie here on the Salon Owners Collective podcast. Now, if you're in Salon Mastery, you may remember already meeting Natalie during one of our 2-day intensives. Natalie knows all too well about taking a moment to stop, to breathe, and having a quick snack on some well-being. This is how to master the salon spirit. But really quickly, before we start, I wanted to let you know that this episode of the Salon Owners Collective podcast is brought to you by Salon Mastery. Salon Mastery helps salon owners grow their team, grow their profit without stress, without overwhelm, no more 60 hours a week. Let's jump into the episode and meet Natalie.
Natalie, thank you so much for joining me on the Salon Owners Collective podcast. Pleased to have you here.
Oh, nice to be here.
So before we get started, let's start with, who the heck are you, Natalie? Where are you in the world? What do you do? And how did you get to be doing it?
Awesome. I wish I could say I was somewhere warm and tropical. You might see just over my shoulder the Wellington wind giving it a good old blow today. So I'm based here in Wellington in New Zealand, and yeah, we're a few different hats. One being mama bear to three little people. So yeah, you know, never is there a time when mental fitness is more important than when you've got little people around you. And I also really enjoy working in a wee business that was set up alongside my brother Paul. Our business is called The Strength Shed, and we play in the wellbeing, resilience, mental fitness space, which ends up spanning, I suppose, into some other part-time work that I do more in the people and coaching space. So originally a corporate world girl, but in saying that, kind of a small town girl, originally from Taranaki in New Zealand. So yeah, that's a little bit of me.
So you and I met through a good friend. We have a good mutual friend. And through that introduction, you have come and run a workshop inside of Salon Mastery around mental fitness. And I thought this was the perfect opportunity for you to come and speak on the podcast. And so I think a really good place to start is, we've already said this word mental fitness a couple of times. What the heck is mental fitness? Like, what does it mean when we say mental fitness, and you know, why should we care about it?
Yeah, perfect. That is a really good place to start, because I can't think if I've confessed this to you at any point, but actually the term mental fitness initially didn't really land with me. I kind of I felt like it had this like elite sporty kind of vibe to it. But I think the easiest way to really describe mental fitness and why it personally lands for me in my world, and actually the work that we do, is it really is no different from your mental fitness. So often people use the term interchangeably with well-being, but actually more broadly, well-being captures a really, really broad range of things. And mental fitness has more of a tune to it around, again, having to work on the stuff all of the time, the good days and the bad days, no different to your physical fitness. So yeah, when our levels of mental fitness are high, we're able to really flourish through adversity and realize our potential, and absolutely have this sense of kind of satisfaction and happiness in our lives. So yeah, that's the easiest way, I think, to describe the term.
Okay, I love that. And I know as a business owner that becomes really important. Why don't we just spend a minute exploring, like, if I don't have good mental fitness, what might my life look like? How can I recognize that maybe I need some help, some fitness help in one's mind?
And the reality of it is it's a continuum. We're all bouncing back and forth across that continuum all the time, aren't we? And so we might talk a little bit later about this idea of digging our well before we're thirsty and really needing it. But actually, the reason why we want to play in this space a whole lot more, one central reason, our Stone Age old brains, the hardwire in our heads, that hasn't changed since exactly where we were kind of created, but actually our environment throws so many more things at us nowadays. And so having to be really mindful of managing our top 2 inches, what we're doing to keep our brain fueled up. We might talk about that a bit too. Keeping our brain fueled up becomes so much more important given the environment we're operating in now, the different things that have been thrown at us, let alone being a salon owner where you're trying to show up as the person who's leading the business, showing up for my team, showing up for my clients, and also being the person you want to be outside of work and business. So the environment absolutely means that we have to kind of consider this top 2 inches a bit more than we ever probably used to.
Yeah. So if one of our owners listening now thought, I wonder if what the state of my mental fitness is, how would it show up if we're not coping very well, or if we're not got good fitness? Like, what are some of the symptoms? Like, what might we experience?
In reality, it is actually different for individual, but I think you can probably wrap a couple of generic kind of bubbles of things when you think around that sense of overwhelm, like whatever level of on the scale that might feel like, but more broadly a sense of overwhelm. That kind of continued pattern of always feeling like a little bit behind or tired or lacking energy or on the treadmill. We use kind of the treadmill analogy a little bit too. We all know there's times where we just have to dig it in and strive towards a thing that we're trying to knock off. But actually that's kind of on repeat over the long term. We've got low energy, we're, saying no to kind of a lot of our social connectivity, because social connection with others is a really important lever for keeping ourselves well. So if you're kind of noticing a pattern of some of those things that should be true, that actually lift you and give you energy, that you're not getting to those over the longer period, there's probably something at play, which means levels of fitness are slowly declining.
Yeah, okay. And of course, as the leader of the business, this becomes most important. You kind of mentioned looking after oneself and taking time to breathe, so to speak. Like, what could that look like for a business owner? What things do we need to do to check in with our mental fitness?
I really like that you used that one-liner, even when we were first talking about setting up this podcast, just that concept of just being able to breathe, because I think the reality of again, what I've seen in the particularly the salon that I've been working really closely with, it's just the pace of it, right? The pace of any salon is just you're absolutely trying to give your clients and your team that vibe, aren't you, of I call it the duck analogy, gliding along top but you're paddling left hand underneath, but it's a really unique environment, isn't it, in terms of the how you grab the moments. And so I think when I was prepping for this conversation, I was really thinking about that well-being moments concept, the levers for keeping us well, and absolutely, being able to hit yoga on a Sunday and do X, Y, and Z. They're all great things, but what the heck can I do in the moment just to catch a breath? And maybe even our terminology and helping giving a level of self-compassion to the moments being important, not the big thing that I do for my well-being. And even sometimes making little promises to ourselves, right? How can I capture 3 well-being moments in my day? And they might be really short, and that might start with starting your day with 2 or 3 large glasses of water in the morning. You're like, boom, I've done one small thing for myself. It was purposeful, and I've started my day well. There's a real movement aspect in here too. Clearly, salon owners and teams are moving on their feet all the time, but arguably there are some days where salon owners don't actually get a chance to step outside the door during their day-to-day. But are there little moments where, I'm actually going to hit 100 meters just up to that intersection and turn around and come back in my day? Boom, that's a second thing that I've done just for me. we when I caught up at with you and the team at that last event online, we talked about some 9 particular big levers for keeping ourselves well, but you can turn those into micro moments too, around a combination of social connectivity and gratitude. For example, you can actually flick a text to someone who means loads to you, just in a moment during your day. Not only do you get a little lift in yourself, it literally creates dopamine fuel in our brain, but you've given that person a lift at the same time. So I think there's some real power in the well-being moments, and I've heard a reference just in recent years of people snacking on well-being moments, versus the waiting for yoga or waiting for my girls trip in 3 weeks' time. What can I actually do in the moment? So yeah, I think there's some power in that.
Oh yeah, that really spoke to me. Like, I've done something for myself today, and it doesn't have to wait for the big thing, the big walk, or just the little things. And I really love the saying, bring the target closer and win more often. So,
Yes.
by 9 o'clock in the morning, I've won already because I had 3 glasses of water. Or by 12 o'clock, I've had 2 wins today because I've now done the walk. And it doesn't have to be big. I don't have to conquer the world. Just do something. So
Absolutely.
micro moments. That's my big takeaway for today. Let's switch now and think about the team, because I agree with you. If you're not in a good place, how do you lead the team and show up for your team and show up for your clients and show up for your children? And we're showing up for everybody. So we've got to look after self first. So let's turn our attention now. If we're taking some micro moments for ourselves and feeling mentally fit, what should we be thinking about ensuring our team are feeling mentally fit? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Definitely a few places that we can take this. And I think first I was reiterating your point around the power of using ourselves as and the power of role modeling. So again, layering up, not only you doing something for yourself, but you're sending a really good message to your team that not only you prioritizing small things to look after yourself, and this is kind of how we roll around here, but I just think it's a powerful nudge to send to them. There's a common language piece in here that's really useful, because I think sometimes people shy away. I see, not necessarily in a salon context, but even kind of in corporate world, often you see leaders shying away from conversations around well-being, or how someone might be tracking, or they're observing something not going well, because they just can't find the language to talk about that. So even normalizing the language of mental fitness is a really good one, because it's almost less threatening in terms of, how's your mental fitness, or how are you tracking. And actually my brother, who works in high performance sport, a lot of the forums he's in, they start their team meetings with how you're tracking today out of 1 to 5, how you're tracking. So you all of a sudden get a vibe from people in terms of how they're tracking. But then you follow that up with and what's been a highlight of the morning, or what's been a top 10 moment in the morning. And they might kind of look at you as if to say, my goodness, I've just dragged myself out of bed, got in the car, got to work. But they're having to search, they're having to look for something that's gone well, and you're creating some brain fuel in them. And when I say brain fuel, you want to keep that front part of the brain turned on for the team, because that helps them to engage with their clients really well, to problem solve and to organize. That's where your executive functions sit, all of that sort of thinking, whereas all of our habits sit in the middle part of the brain, and we kind of default there when we run out of fuel. Just go to the limbic part of our brain. So there's something quite powerful in terms of nudging your team and team meetings and in everyday language to think about what is also going well. I think there's a piece here also to do with variety, and if you're a leader, you're naturally thinking about the well-being of your team anyway, and sometimes we start racking our brains for what's the thing we need to do for the team. Okay, this month we'll have a focus on da-da-da. And you know what, I think having a little bit of variety and fun with different things that you can have as initiatives for the team is really good. I've seen other teams do that. Actually, this month we're focusing on random acts of kindness, and we're going to share those random acts of kindness that we've executed, outside of work. But I get a real lift when I hear that so-and-so did something for their neighbour the other day that neighbour totally hadn't expected. or you paid for the person's coffee behind you in the line, but you came and you told me about that. And so I got a lift hearing about the thing. And so you're creating a common language in the team of not only doing random acts of kindness, which is good for our well-being, but we can all live off that good fuel. So yeah, I think there's something about prioritizing regular conversations, but just having a few rocks, whether it's the term mental fitness or brain fuel, how's your brain fuel, or what's a particular thing that we could play around with for these next few months in terms of gratitude. In the last chat, I think we talked about 3GTs, which we chat about in our family. I wish it was 3G and T's, it'd be quite nice. But three good things. And so, you get my dad, who's a burly farmer from Taranaki, when I say to him, what are your 3GTs for the day, Dad? Your 3 good things. Oh, I don't know, he says. And but actually he now rolls with asking us what our three good things are. But imagine how powerful that can be in a team environment where, you're approaching Christmas and you're under the pump and you're down a staff member, but we're talking about hunting the good things, and we're tactically giving each other brain fuel by doing that. Yeah, so I think that's useful for a team.
I really think so. And I like that this is not like, I don't have to create this big event. I don't have to get in this big expert. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It's just actually redirecting the conversation to finding the good things. And that's enough to get started. I remember a time when I felt as the business owner that I needed to be the one that held the torch for the tone of things. And so I would never be vulnerable that I was having a shit day, feeling really tired or whatever was going on for me, because I was always up and I needed to be up, which is freaking exhausting. Just to be up all of the time, even when you're pretending that you're up because you're not actually up. And I realized that actually wasn't serving me or the team, because it also meant that they didn't have permission to just be. And the reality is we can't all be up all of the time ourselves, let alone expect our team to do that also. So I think it's really refreshing to be real and say, actually, we literally did this morning. We have this rule in the office: when you come and we ask each other how we are, and we're not allowed to say good. Like, good is not in the vocab. So you have to dig deep to think about really how you are. And so today I actually said, you know what, I'm actually tired. Like, I'd actually be quite happy to go back and crawl into bed. But when you look for, but, I know I don't normally like to say, but I feel like I'm crawling into bed, but this is my intent for the day. And I was just thinking as you were talking, it's like, oh, I don't actually feel tired like crawling into bed anymore, because I'm naturally feeling up. So I think that conversation and allowing people to be real, but not give in to it. Like, I'm feeling tired today, but I'm not giving in, because I'm going to make my day better for myself. Just love that. That's such a better environment to be in.
I massively endorse what you're saying, and I'll try not to completely run down this rabbit hole, but actually there's a guy by the name of Patrick Lencioni that does lots of really great stuff in the high-performing team space. Oddly, quite a lot of his models for his work centralize around this one particular one called the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which I find hilarious, because wouldn't you just flip it on his head and call it the 5 functions? But anyway, he talks a lot about obviously trust being foundational, one of the 5 pillars, foundational for your team. And the trust is built on vulnerability, which is led by the leader. The leader has to go first. And I like exactly what you're saying about it's kind of a bit of an emotional agility play, and I might talk about that in a moment too. But we are not our feelings. Our feelings are just something that we're experiencing, and they're a piece of data. So being able to go, hey, yeah, I'm feeling tired today. Not necessarily that, or if we're down about something, I'm feeling disappointed today. Not I am angry. I'm just feeling a bit angry for some reason. I'm feeling a bit frustrated. And so being really curious about that instead of labeling ourselves as the thing, I think there's some power in that as a leader as well. So that was a great point to touch on.
Hey there again. I really just quickly wanted to jump in here and say thank you so much for joining me on this podcast episode. I do have one question for you though. Are you listening to this episode thinking, oh my God, I am so stuck on the salon treadmill, but you don't really know how to slow down and just take a breath? Well, I've got some strategies for you. The Salon Mastery Program will help you develop and implement strategies into your salon that are designed to help you grow your salon, your team, and your profit. But of course, without the stress and without the overwhelm. No more 60 hours a week. Like, we're done with that. We'll give you the tools so that you can grow, you can slow down on the treadmill, and just take a moment to breathe. Maybe even you'll book a holiday. So I want to invite you to join me for a complimentary strategy call. We'll discuss your business, your role inside of your business. Let's see if I can help you grow the team, the business, and help you reach that $1 million business mark. So all you need to do is click apply now. I've left the link in the show notes of this episode. We can book a time, we can have that strategy call, tell me about your business, and let's see if I can help. All right, that's enough from me. Let's get back to the episode with Natalie.
Oh, I like that. I am not my feelings. I'm experiencing my feelings. Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Massively.
I like that a lot.
Mm.
Okay, we've had some good takeaways already, Nat. So we have gin teas. I'll remember that. Drink the gin. 3 good things. Remembering that we are experiencing our feelings, we are not our feeling. What would be 1 or 2 other things that we can take back into the salon, whether we start with ourselves or we go straight to the team? Like good tactical tips that we can say, I am doing mental fitness and I'm doing it for myself and I'm doing it for my team. 1 or 2 more takeaways, I reckon.
Nice. We'll first refresh that bit about wrapping them under that idea of well-being moments. Just make them moments. Humans are teleological, right? We want to drive towards something. So all of these things are just moments. And so don't lose sight of the foundations either. Like, yes, gratitude and random acts of kindness and savoring and all of those things that we can grab in the moment are good things. But remember the eat, move, sleep, and intentional generation of positive emotions. Those foundations and just snacking on those little micro moments are super important as well. And I think I would shine a light on. I specifically call it a strategy, but it's actually the strategy of noticing. And we kind of almost touched on it before around the feelings. Just noticing what we're feeling. Just literally noticing what's going on around you. And giving our brains a little break sometimes around. I saw this great clip recently where someone talked about if you're just popping out to grab something during the day, going, how many people are wearing sunglasses today? And your brain then has to look for the people wearing sunglasses, and it doesn't do all of the flying all over the place that our brains love to do. And when we're driving, like, what does the steering wheel feel like? Hot, cold, smooth? Actually trying to bring yourself back to the present and stop our brains flying around. So noticing, I think I would wrap up with. More broadly, with all of these bits, just dig our well before we're thirsty. Do this stuff repeat all the time on the good days and the bad days. That's the thing that gives us a buffer for our resilience.
Can I go back to the noticing?
Yes.
Because that intrigues me a little bit. What is the benefit of doing noticing? I mean, obviously it's about being present in the moment. What is it stopping us from doing? You said that all the things flying around. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, is this when we're overwhelmed and too many thoughts flying, like I can't calm myself, that actually that kind of brings me back into present?
Yeah, the environments that we're ideally operating in most of the time have our brains wanting to go. Often we're trying to seek certainty on things. Our brain hates being uncertain. And so if there's an unresolved problem sitting in our head, or there's this particular admin task I need to knock off, or a conversation I need to have with my staff member, or holy heck, it's my dad's birthday next week. And so our brains aren't designed to have all of these open loops. And so giving yourself these moments where ask your brain a question, because it's a supercomputer, and go, what am I experiencing right now? What feelings word am I experiencing? Or what does the steering wheel feel like? Or how many sunglasses? Those examples are all ways to just bring our brain back to here, because we are operating in environments with all of these open loops all the time. And so there's this interesting pattern coming out of a whole lot of research that talks about we're just not giving our brains a break in between all of the hustle, do the thing. And so again, it's a well-being moment or a micro moment to just try and give our brain a little break, because we've asked it a question and we've brought it back to the present and stopped it doing all the stuff in the past and all the stuff in the future to work out and get some certainty. We've just asked it to come back to the present. So yeah, I think simply calling it noticing You could call it mindfulness if you wanted to, but I wonder whether that term is just being a bit overused at the moment. It's just simply referencing noticing as a technique in and of itself.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And I certainly understand that need for one that our brain has to solve a problem, an open loop, and keep going there. And you can, like you say, you can have several of those going all at once. And that's when we get a little bit unraveled, I feel.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. This has been super amazing. So, Natalie, you're a business owner, as couple of things you have on the juggle. So, like us, being a business owner, what is something, a quote or a mantra or something that you constantly go back to just to keep you on the straight and narrow? What have you got for us?
Oh, I wish it was something that I could pull from some work that we did or something like that, but I actually keep coming back to that tried and true one from the Maya Angelou, the one around actually people will totally forget kind of what you said or what you did, but they'll absolutely never forget how you made them feel. And so I was thinking how relevant that kind of becomes for a salon owner, right? You want your clients to absolutely feel a certain thing when they step into the salon. Your team, you want them to feel something and feel a sense of belonging and connected to what you're driving towards. So I think again, we can beat ourselves up on how does the thing look? Did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? How does that look? But actually, it's how you engage with people, the time of day and the listening and the energy you give them that is going to be the piece they remember anyway. So I try and keep myself honest on that, particularly as a parent. That's kind of a tried and true, I think.
I love that. Yeah. Give yourself a break on the details. It's not what matters. Okay. What about a book or a podcast or something that you've had your hands on recently you think all salon owners should get their hands on?
I keep coming back to she doesn't necessarily have a podcast herself, but a few books, and I love following her Insta material. And it's Susan David, who does a lot of work in that emotional agility space. And I just think it's so relevant for life, right? For again, business owners and relationships and all the things. And some of her Instagram material just presents information on emotions in such a practical way. Like clearly she's a researcher. I think she might be out of Harvard, Susan David, and has written a great book called Emotional Agility. But if you're not really up for the book, she gets interviewed on lots of different podcasts, and her Instagram material is just really digestible and useful. So I think there's some real gold in there for people wanting to dig into.
Amazing. We shall get a link to her Insta on the show notes of this episode. Let's do that. All right. People are going to want to know who you are, Natalie. Where can we find you? What's your dub or your social?
Oh, cool. So we've got a wee webpage set up, www.thestrengthsshed. So strengths has an S on it because actually using our strengths is absolutely a lever for keeping us well. It gives us energy. So yeah, that's what our business is all about. So a wee webpage there. And I think I'm just natalie.tour on Instagram at the moment, but that's probably reminded me we need to get cracking with the socials page, particularly for the Strengths Shed. So yeah, that's how you can find me.
Amazing. And again, thank you so much for coming in, hanging out with me again. And particularly today on my tired day, it was really refreshing to have that chat with you. Perfectly timed.
Awesome.
So thanks
Always
again.
love chatting. Cool. Thanks, Larissa.
And that's a wrap. Thanks again, Natalie, for joining me on the Salon Owners Collective podcast. I appreciate you. And I hope this episode has provided you with the tools to take a moment, have that snack on some well-being, whether it be a 100K walk up the road or just to text a friend. I think creating and checking in on our mental health and taking a moment for ourselves can help us actually be a better salon CEO, because you can't run a business when you're running on empty. So sometime today, I want you to take a moment and just breathe. Remember, it doesn't need to be a full yoga class. You can even just go and sit in the back room for a moment and take a breath just to yourself. You'll thank me for it, I promise. All right, you can't be a successful CEO who grows their business and has work-life balance when you're constantly running full speed on the treadmill nonstop. Something to think about. All right, that's enough from me today, and ciao for now. See you same time, same place next week.